Hello and welcome to the iCreateDaily podcast. I'm Leora Alderson.
And I'm Devani Alderson. We are the mother-daughter co-founders of the iCreateDaily brand.
We are passionate about encouraging positivity, creativity, and productivity while bringing you information and resources that support your creative aspirations.
iCreateDaily is for creators in every genre of creating, from musicians to writers, crafters to inventors, bloggers to entrepreneurs. So if you're into creating anything, this podcast has something for you.
So tell us, what would support you most in your journey? You can reach us at creators@iCreateDaily.com.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Hello and welcome to another coffee break episode on the iCreateDaily podcast, conversations for kindling creativity for anyone in pursuit of the creative life. I'm Devani.
And I'm Leora.
And today we're talking about the new iCreateDaily podcast network that we are starting and have kind of already been working on in the background. We mentioned it on a previous podcast episode, but we only lightly touched on it because we were still in the initial ideation process. But now we have gained a lot more clarity on what this network will be and what it will mean for the future of this iCreateDaily podcast experience.
Right. And as with so many things that we do, is this the right time to start it? Probably not. But we're doing it because it's the next most logical thing in the evolving journey of our intentions for the iCreateDaily brand, some of which we'll share here now because some of them relate directly to potentials for our audience, as well as for the growth of our own brand. We've alluded to some of these in the past where we talk about there will be increasing opportunities for creators to have your work showcased, to have your work leveraged, for you to leverage the iCreateDaily brand and audience and growth to help promote your own work. And that's one of our aspirations. So it's not just growing our own brand for our own endeavors, but also to help elevate and, amplify the work of other creators and to help you in your journey as well. So for instance, we own probably about 50 domain names, give or take a dozen, in the iBlankDaily genre. Not all of them are of the secondary podcasts that we'll be doing have the daily in the name, but most of them will. So for instance, as we grow, we will have iArtDaily. We already have challenges that we're hosting and journals that we're hosting that we sell rather that have the iArtDaily name. We have iWriteDaily. As it is that as we grow and our audience grows, we will be able to have more and more guests. Like, so for instance, if we have a guest who's a writer, and you're not at all interested in writing, although that probably doesn't apply to any in our audience mostly, because most of them, even if you're a visual artist and you have some interest in writing for the most part, even if it's writing your blog or writing descriptions of your art, one of the challenges, I know I'm skipping around a little bit, but it all comes together. One of the challenges that we've done is Creators Challenge, where it's not specific to any one genre or medium of art. And that's always really popular because people really enjoy seeing the different kinds of creativity. And when you see, if you're a visual artist, but you see writing or read writing that, that inspires you, then it inspires your own creativity as well. Not only that, but it inspires artists to do more writing. And just like visual arts inspire writers to do more visuals, either in their descriptions as they're writing or in actually trying their hand at painting something. So, we hope that the iCreateDaily audience, that of the different genres of podcasts that we end up doing, that you'll find that you will tune into many more than just the plain iCreateDaily kind. And part of what's hard about it for us to figure out and to share with you guys is that creativity in a way is a human thing and knows no boundaries. So for us, for instance, one of our brands, and we just finished a series of interviews with a medical doctor he's actually a naturopath and also a PhD. And this is for what will be published next, I think will be the iHeal Daily podcast. And Dr. Gordon Pedersen, whom we've interviewed before, it will be our first guest for the I Heal Daily, and that is for creative conversations for health and healing. Well, while
and the reason we did that,
while it is that, I know I'm going on long, so let me just finish this thought. While it is that I Create Daily is not a specific healing podcast by any means, it definitely is something that affects all of us. And there's also a lot of creativity involved, and it's something that we're interested in.
And there's so many people in our audience that have talked about different health issues that get in the way of their creativity because they have to be focused on figuring that out, or feeling bad and not feeling at your optimal health level absolutely impacts every area of your life, from your career to your creativity. So it's such an important topic. However, I Create Daily started as conversations for creative people and learning the creative stories, but we didn't want to turn down interviewing people who we really want to know their story, and we want to know how they're helping, and we want to also serve different niches in the long run anyway. And so that's why we're creating these different branches, I suppose, of the I Create Daily. Different rays of the I Create Daily sun.
That's
Duh.
right. That's right. That's okay.
We use trees too much, but our logo's a sun.
That's right.
Well,
we use trees because we live in the woods, but we live under the sun, and the sun is our logo because it not only gives life to the planet, but light, illumination, enlightenment, and growth, is all to us. It is all a symbol of, the sun is a symbol of all of those things. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons that's our favorite sun. So our favorite symbol for the I Create Daily brand.
It's our favorite sun too.
Favorite sun too in the solar system. So here's an example also. So we talked about I Heal Daily. I Fit Daily is another one. And there's something that, like, when Devani and I are so focused on writing and creating content where we are sitting at our desk all day long, then one of the things we do is something we call brawn breaks, as in brawn like muscle breaks, or fitness breaks, quick fitness tips. One of the things in my background, one of the first products I created was actually a fitness product that I was the ideator for it, and I partnered with enlisted the assistance of my personal trainer to help create fitness cards that were laminated that people could use to take with them to the gym to do personal trainer kind of workouts wherever they were. We still sell these on Amazon. You can find that at My Trainer Fitness on Amazon or mytrainerfitness.com. And we'll link to that in the show notes as well. But again, the concept is, in fact, Joanna Penn of the Creative Pen, which is one of our favorite successful writers and prolific writers, said that she's just coming out with a book titled something like Fitness for Writers, because she said,
and she already did a Help for Writers.
Yes, and maybe that was it, because health and fitness is such a problem, as she said, within the writing community, because the nature of our profession is to spend so much time sitting. So
remember the other day so much of the day went by, and I was like, the morning feels like this, and then bam, it's bedtime.
Yeah, it's like the end of the
day. It's like
the
morning is so long and extended, and you're creating, and then next thing you know, it's like, oh, it's time to go to bed.
Yeah, and
you're like, what happened?
How could we have been sitting for 12 hours? And so we'll be including guests that in the fitness realm for those of you interested in that, and we hope that you'll at least give all of them a try and see what you think. But the other part of it, segmenting them. So here's an example. We have had, like Devani said, we have these podcast brokers, like booking agents, contacting us to inquire about interviewing their clients, and several of those were actually coaches. And coaching, and there's always, we can find creativity in any area, and yet for some people you may not be interested in a life coach, or you may not be interested in an astrologer, or you may not be interested in
fitness or
health or psychic. One of them was like an intuitive psychic kind of coach, and reader, medium was the term I was looking for. So that's something that definitely is not for you. Then our segmenting some of these into different categories will help you be able to hone in on what is of greater interest to you and to ignore the rest.
Yeah, and it helps. And then it also helps anybody who's deeply interested in a specific topic dive into that topic more, because obviously we're going to be populating each one with more people that fit that genre. And so if what you're mostly interested in is visual arts, then you'll have the iArt Daily to dive into everybody we interview that fits into the visual arts realm. Or if you're a writer and all you want to do is focus on what are tips from authors and writers, then we'll have the iArt Daily. And so it'll really help, it will help us sort out which guests we accept for which podcast, and it will help you figure out what you really want to focus on and are interested in.
Yeah. And so, and what these all have in common basically is us, in that these are all areas that we're also interested in and or think that you might be interested in. And, you know, these are kind of like areas of life, because we're about the creative life. I create daily, create the life you want to live one day at a time, and the day is the way. And that includes create the health that you want to have, create the work that you want to have, create the passion, or create the work that you're passionate about creating. So the other thing that a lot of these guests and different types of topics have in common is that many of them are run by or created by entrepreneurs. And that's definitely something that we're interested in. There are plenty of entrepreneurial shows. Mm-hmm. So when we cover entrepreneurs, and it's entrepreneurs with a focus on the creativity, the creative aspect of bringing their vision to life. Or if it's fitness, then it's the entrepreneurial, it's like the ideation of what's different about that kind of fitness, and how it relates, like we were talking earlier, relates to you as creators, when it is artists, writers, even so many entrepreneurs, so many of us, and so many people just in general are sitting so much of the time, and that is not how our bodies were designed. So it is to help us kind of be more holistic in terms of a creative life in general.
Totally. Yep. So the similarity between all our podcasts will be around highlighting the creativity in each niche and each guest, and then it'll just fall under different names essentially. And not only does that help these different iTunes and different podcast feeds figure out how to categorize our show, it helps you guys, like we mentioned earlier, it helps you guys pick and choose which ones you want to listen to the most. And of course, being on our email list, you'll get the emails as soon as they publish, and you can decide whether it's of interest to you at the time or to save for later, or like, I know the perfect friend who needs to listen to this iHealth episode because they're struggling with this very issue. You know, it just helps all of us be a little bit more clear on the purpose of each show and each guest, because it can be, we have discovered it can be very nebulous to have a show called iCreateDaily, because in our minds there are so many people that could fit under that, and so it helps us hone in.
Yeah, and again, just like the people who contacted us that were like, well, you know, is that really a fit for our audience? And so when then we realized that our plan all along was to expand the iDaily brand into other avenues, as evidenced by all the domain names we have in that category, or in that namesake kind of thing. And I almost forgot, I hope you're still with us, because I almost forgot one of the most important things, to circle back around to how it is that this is could include you in the future. So obviously, just the two of us, even with our small team of freelancers and other family members, cannot do it all. Mm-hmm. So our goal and vision is that over time that we will have guest hosts to host these podcasts, and as well as same thing with articles and writers. We'll have guest writers to be contributing writers, just like Mackenzie Clench is right now for the iCreateDaily website. He's published a few articles. For those who may not be at the category of professional writer and want to hone your writing skills and just build your own brand, then you can apply. You can send us an email, creators@iCreateDaily.com, and let us know that you're interested in joining our creators corridor. We can give you your own profile on the iCreateDaily brand, where you can publish some of your work. So that's another opportunity. But here's an example. So one of our names that we're going to be creating a show around, or podcast around, as well as even perhaps another niche website, is iYogaDaily.com. Perhaps some of you have seen some of the shirts that we've made that have that logo, iYogaDaily. And one of our friends, Jennifer Knoll, is a wonderful yogi and yoga teacher. And so she is very likely going to be the one that will be the face of that brand for a while, and maybe interviewed on the podcast, and maybe even become a podcast, iYogaDaily podcast host. So these are the kind of things that we look forward to turning over to other people, especially when we get them. And, in the beginning, it may be for no pay whatsoever, but for the opportunity to get out there and get your own podcast going.
Especially without all the technical stuff from building from the ground up, and just being able to establish a body of work without having to worry about so much overhead and all the different things you have to learn. It could be a great sort of intermediary if you're not sure if you want to start your own brand yet, but you want to kind of know what's it like, what do I do, how do I operate all this. It could be a great fit if that's something you're interested in, and we have a topic of relevance that fits with both of us. Yeah, we've been talking recently about how, right now the internet is no longer in there's still so much opportunity, but it's not as easy by far as it used to be before it was so crowded. And part of what's making it so crowded now is not only what we heard the figure just the other day about how many billion, like 50 billion blogs, 50 billion blogs out there, and then so something like one blog for every 5 people out there. And then there's so much more money flocking to the internet and the online world as the brick and mortar industry diminishes. Everything goes in cycles. And so the cycle right now is everything's going online. And, in 2010, 2015, it was easier to set up a website. And well, in a way it was harder to build, and you had to hire people to do it. A lot of times you couldn't do it yourself. It was simpler, I think. There weren't so many options that were crowding people. Like, what do I do? What site do I get on? What tools do I use? How am I even going to get established, since there've been blogs established for 10 years now? Well, what was simpler is that basically you have somebody create a blog for you if you didn't know how to do WordPress yourself. What was hard in the beginning is you had to know coding. So then WordPress came out, and you could create your own website without having to know coding, and you just needed to be a little bit able to follow technical directions. And what made it simple is that it wasn't as crowded. Mm-hmm. So it was harder to establish a website now, as there are so many tools that have made it increasingly easier to set up a website. Then obviously it's more crowded. And then also, because so many people are online, then all the bigger companies are proliferating the online marketplace to make it harder for people to learn. So for now, and we've talked about SEO, search engine optimization, and the importance of using keywords and optimizing your articles and your website and your content so that people can find you. But there are people there's so many people who do that for a living, who do that professionally, and there are so many people paying to have people do that for them, that if you're not doing that, chances of you getting found and getting, ranking for any specific article, content, or keyword over somebody who is doing that is very slim. Yeah. So now, we don't want to discourage you, but we just want you to be aware of the reality of the industry. So the benefit then in things that we'll be able to increasingly offer is that's the journey we've been on now for quite a few years of learning the online world and doing all that we can to leverage our online assets, our websites, such that they'll be found, such that the traffic is growing. For us, we're in the journey. We're not the experts yet on that. We still are in the journey of learning. There's still a lot more to learn. There's still a lot that we have learned, and all of that we will share with you over time, increasingly as we can. Anything that we know that can help you, we will be glad to share with you. But the other thing we'll be able to share with you is our platform itself. So such as the podcast network. And in fact, speaking of that, so we are hosted on podcastwebsites.com. That is the host for our podcast content. And then we are expanding our podcast network into the sister arm or platform of the podcast website, which is called captivate.com. We will link to all of that for you.
if it is you think you want to start your own podcast and you're not, and you just want to do it very quickly and simply and easily, then the captivate.com is the way to go. So for us,
we are super happy with our podcast website support. They've gone above and beyond in offering help and supporting us along the way of creating a podcast, getting it out there, tips, pointers. They have resources. They're one of the leaders in podcasting right now, and they're constantly in the industry learning new things so that they can be ahead for people like us who use their services. So, and they're just a great crew of people, super friendly.
Yeah. So for us, I think one of the things that we've also decided for this coming year is, we're writers and that's our comfort zone. And yet we're serious about podcasting and growing our podcasting network as one pillar of the things that we do. So just to give you an idea, we've talked in the past about that we have 3 pillars, which is to create, connect, and contribute. And we've added a 4th pillar to that, and that is cultivate, because we realize that a lot of what we do is provide and share information and to cultivate, basically. So it's another word for educate, inform, teach, and that sort of thing. So we want to, our mission is to create through the things that we create, the products we create, which includes e-commerce, to connect, and that is to connect with you, to connect with our audience.
Through podcasting, connect with other creators.
And other creators through the interviews that we do, and then sharing that with you, which is part of the contribution, which is the 3rd pillar, contribution through the information that we share for free and also with our communities. And then 4th is to cultivate, which is to provide information, education, and resources through the websites that we build and have. And so, for us, that we have been on a mission for a while to create publish an article a day, for instance. This year, we have done less of the creating of original content and more updating existing content, and totally recommend that. If you're a writer, whether it's poetry or books or essays or articles, that to go back periodically and update your work. There's so many times that we've gone back to do that and think, wow, I remember thinking that was good, and there's so much more that could be added to it. So as we grow, our content can grow too. And the good thing about, if you have a website, the good thing about going in and updating good old content is that Google actually prefers that over creating brand new content, especially if the old content is what they call thin, say under 500 words, and not strongly keyworded. To help then go back and learn a little bit about keywording, and update your article to be something that can be found by Google, that lets Google know what it is and what it stands for, what it's about, and who would be looking for that.
And this is a lot of the left brain business marketing type of work that many creators just don't want to do. They don't care about it. It gets too in the weeds. However, it's incredibly important, because if you're going to spend the time creating work that you share, it doesn't matter so much if it's just a hobby and you don't care if anything comes of it. But if you want to create work and build a brand and have your work out there, it is an incredibly important step that it gets found. And there are so many creators who just want to avoid doing that work because it takes concentration, it takes focus, and it takes consistency. And sometimes it's easier for us to paint our painting than to do some of this other work that's more the business, technical, look at analytics, measure, the math style stuff that gets involved with the creativity, the other side of creativity. And so that's a lot of what this podcast network, that's what we've been analyzing by doing this podcast network. It allows us to also do that work for us, because we're constantly learning about SEO and all this nitty-gritty stuff. We don't talk about it that much on our podcast or in our coffee breaks, because it's taken us years to learn and there's so many layers to it, and we don't want to put you to sleep about it, but it is incredibly important.
Right.
And it's not hard. It just takes consistent learning, and there's a lot of creators not willing to do that because they just don't want to.
Right. So that's pretty much it as far as what it is we're working on and planning. And the podcast network will include so many different things. So including, for instance, iCreateDaily, because if you've listened to this podcast before or read our articles, you may know or remember that we also have a gardening website, gardensall.com, which has over 100,000 on Facebook. And we have a correlated gardening group called Planting for Retirement, which is a Facebook group that has over 4,400 or 41, I think, 100 members. And so,
in fact, some of our moderators for that group are in the iCreateDaily.
That's right.
Group.
That's right. There are a lot of crossovers between gardeners and creators, creativity and crafts and art and gardening. So iCreateDaily will probably be the podcast for our plant lovers, and that's in gardening. So anyway, that's part of, and this will be evolving. We're unfolding this as we go. One of the ones that is a favorite name that won't have the daily name is Cosmic Combos, for Cosmic Conversations. And we will actually have a podcast coming out in a couple weeks.
It's called Cosmic Combos on Creativity, Spirit, and Consciousness.
Yeah. And so that's where more of the more esoteric kind of things, spiritual oriented things will be hosted for now. So, if you're interested in that kind of thing, then look for that. That'll be coming out in a couple weeks as well.
Yeah. So all of this is happening behind the scenes, and we wanted to let you guys know, because we're going to have, we might have a longer break between episodes as we're preparing for all of this, as we're sorting all this content. And we always want to include you on this journey, because we know that a lot of you in our audience, whether we've interacted with you personally or you're just listening, you probably have a million ideas, and we do too. And this is how we kind of sort a lot of it out.
Right. And I'm glad you said that, because it reminded me that, just to remind you guys too, that you don't have to have it all figured out. That again, it is in the journey that the way becomes more clear, and just get started. And don't if it is that, so we are in the era where raw, authentic, organic kind of podcasts like this actually get a lot more airplay than those that are highly polished. This isn't a black and white. It's obviously there are exceptions to everything. And even when it is that we have the budget to do more orchestration and more editing in our podcast, absolutely we will. But meanwhile, whatever we're learning in the journey, then that lets you see that, you can just get started and you can figure it out on the way and as you go. And the other valuable thing about it, doing it that way, is that you get to hear from your audience their ideas, their feedback, and what it is they like and don't like. So let us know, creators at iCreateDaily.com, any of your thoughts and also your interests.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye. Thanks so much for joining us for the iCreateDaily podcast. Please let us know what creatives you would like us to interview and what topics you would be interested in hearing more about.
And if you enjoyed this show, please leave a review on iTunes. We value your feedback. We read all the reviews, and it just helps us get the word out on the iCreateDaily podcast. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.